Two friends drove to a greyhound track on a Tuesday evening, placed some bets, had a few drinks, watched the dogs run under the floodlights. By the following afternoon, they were both dead, bound, beaten, shot in the head, and dumped in a scrapyard 70 miles from where anyone last saw them alive. Their car burned to nothing beside them. No witnesses, no arrests, no answers. 24 years later, no one has ever been held responsible. So what happened that night? Subscribe, because some stories don't end when the cameras stop rolling. John Hall was 45 years old. He lived on Eastfield Road in Carluke, a quiet town in Lanarkshire. Married, unemployed, a father. 2 teenage daughters at home, a grown son from a previous relationship. David McIntosh was younger, 33. He lived in Wishaw, not far from Carluke, with his partner Diane, also unemployed. What connected them, beyond friendship, was the dogs. Greyhound racing, not the polished, licensed kind you'd see at a proper stadium. The unlicensed kind. Flapping tracks, they called them. Small, rough, cash-in-hand operations running on the edges of legality, in places like Gretna and Armadale. John and David loved them. They were regulars, known faces, comfortable in that world. And that world, as it turned out, had a darker side they found very easy to step into. It started small, stolen cars, trading vehicles that didn't belong to them. Low risk, easy money. Then came the drugs. Cocaine, mostly. Nothing major. At first, they were small-timers. Street level, moving small amounts, making small profits. They were not gangsters, not kingpins, not even close. But Lanarkshire in the early 2000s had a drug trade that was anything but small. Organized, violent, unforgiving. And somewhere along the line, John Hall and David McIntosh decided they wanted a bigger piece of it. These were men who thought they could play in a bigger league. They were wrong. Have you ever heard of unlicensed greyhound tracks being used as a cover for criminal deals? It sounds almost too strange to be true. But it happened more than you'd think. At some point in the year 2000, John and David made a decision, a bad one. They agreed to take on a consignment of cocaine, 5 kilograms, on credit. Now, in the legitimate world, buying something on credit means you pay it back over time. In the criminal underworld, it means something very different. It means someone powerful trusted you with their product. And if that product doesn't come back as money, you do. 5 kilos of cocaine at that level, wholesale, uncut, represented around 120,000 pounds. That wasn't pocket change for men like Hall and McIntosh. That was everything, and they knew it. So they needed somewhere safe to store it while they figured out how to move it. That's where Graham Dunsmore came in. Dunsmore was 26 years old, a small-time associate, someone who owed Hall and McIntosh money, a debt of his own, thousands of pounds. They gave him a way to work it off, hide the drugs. Dunsmore worked at an NTL cable television office in Livingston, West Lothian, a legitimate workplace, an unsuspecting location. He agreed. He stashed 5 kilograms of cocaine in his locker at work, and then the police found it. We don't know exactly how. A tip-off, a routine check. It doesn't matter. What matters is that officers walked into that building, opened that locker, and pulled out 120,000 pounds worth of cocaine. Dunsmore was arrested. In December 2000, just months after the stash was hidden, he was jailed for 6 years. The drugs were gone, every single gram of it. And now Hall and McIntosh were standing in front of a very dangerous supplier with nothing to show. No product, no money, no plan. A source close to the case later said it plainly. They were on borrowed time. Think about what that means. The supplier hadn't just lost cocaine. They'd lost 120,000 pounds. And their patience. In that world, a debt like that doesn't get renegotiated. It doesn't get forgiven. It gets collected. one way or another. From the moment Dunsmore was sentenced, the clock was ticking for John Hall and David McIntosh. They just didn't know how little time they had left. Tuesday, October the 2nd, 2001. Around 6 in the evening, John Hall left his home on Eastfield Road in Carluke. A night out with his best friend. His family waved him off. Nobody thought anything of it. A few miles away in Wishaw, David McIntosh did the same. Kissed his partner Diane goodbye. Climbed into his black Volkswagen Golf, registration X468ABV, and drove. 2 men, 1 car, a Tuesday evening. Nothing unusual about that. By 8 o'clock, they were 70 miles south of Larkhall, at the Halcrow Greyhound Stadium in Gretna Green, an unlicensed track, their kind of place. The dogs were running. Money was changing hands. Drinks were flowing under the floodlights. Hall and McIntosh were regulars here. Known faces, comfortable. They placed bets, watched races, had a few drinks. At some point after that, they left, got back in the Gulf, and somehow ended up 70 miles north, back in Larkhall, in a disused scrapyard off Merryton Road. In the dark, that journey, those 70 miles, is where everything falls apart. Did someone call them? Make them an offer they couldn't refuse? Were they lured with the promise of a deal, a way out of the debt? Or were they forced, driven at gunpoint? No choice, no warning. Police could never confirm which. What they could confirm was the endpoint. A scrapyard, a burnt-out car, and 2 men who never made it home. How they got from Gretna to that patch of Lanarkshire ground. Nobody has ever answered that. Not officially. Not yet. We're halfway through this case, and things are about to get darker. If you're new here, and you want cases like this told straight, no dramatization, no fluff, just the facts laid out clearly, hit subscribe and the bell. It genuinely helps this channel more than you know. Now, back to Larkhall. What happened in that scrapyard happened in darkness. No witnesses, no cameras, no one around to hear anything. But forensics and post-mortem examinations told a story, a very clear one. Hall and McIntosh were bound. Hands, feet, restrained. They were beaten, severely. Police described the injuries as consistent with a sustained, brutal assault. Then came the petrol. They were doused. The car, McIntosh's black Golf, was soaked too. And then they were shot. Once, close range, execution style, to the head, both of them. The post-mortem was unambiguous. Cause of death, gunshot wounds to the head. Everything else, the beating, the petrol, that was theater. Someone then set the car alight. It burned, but not completely. The petrol hadn't taken the way it was supposed to. The fire consumed the Golf, reduced it to a blackened shell, but the bodies were only partially burned. That detail mattered. It meant there was evidence left. It meant forensics had something to work with. Wednesday, October the 3rd, 4:20 in the afternoon. A pensioner on her afternoon walk saw something unmistakable. She called the police immediately. Within hours, Strathclyde Police had activated their serious crime squad. They didn't treat this as a mystery. They treated it as what it was, a gangland execution. From day one, Detective Superintendent John Carnichan led the inquiry. Over 50 detectives, door-to-door inquiries in Larkhall, CCTV checks at the Gretna dog track, witness appeals across 2 counties. They were thorough, and one of their first moves, the very same day the bodies were found, was to drive to Shotts Prison to visit Graham Dunsmore, the man who'd hidden the cocaine, the man who'd been jailed because of it. When Dunsmore heard what had happened to Hall and McIntosh, he didn't look confused. He didn't look surprised. A source close to him said it simply. As soon as he heard they'd been shot, he knew exactly who had done it and why. He knew, which means the answer existed. Somewhere, in someone's memory, in someone's silence. Detectives followed every thread they could find, and one name kept appearing. Grant McIntosh. No relation to David. Grant McIntosh was a career criminal, a violent one. He came out of the Paisley Gang Wars, one of the bloodiest periods in west of Scotland criminal history. He had a long record, a major cannabis conviction in the mid-1980s, allegations of dealing inside prison. But what made him relevant here, what put him at the center of this inquiry, was the dogs. Grant McIntosh owned greyhounds. He was a prominent figure on the unlicensed flapping circuit. The exact same world that Hall and McIntosh had moved through. The exact same scene. Police publicly stated they were investigating links between a well-known individual with a high greyhound profile and the deaths of both men. They were talking about him, but they never charged him, never arrested him for this. The net was cast wider, too. Detectives explored connections to Glasgow gangland figures operating at a higher level. There were questions about cross-border drug networks, organizations, moving product between Scotland and England. Some reporting at the time pointed toward loyalist paramilitary connections, associates of Johnny Adair, criminal enterprises running along sectarian lines. It was looked at, but never proven, never charged. One theory even suggested hired killers with paramilitary backgrounds. Possible. But evidence, solid prosecutable evidence, was never there. And the murder weapon, never found. Not then, not since. Here's what I want to ask you. Do you think the greyhound racing scene was deliberately used as a cover for criminal activity? Or was it just a convenient overlap? Because the more you look at this case, the more that question matters. 50 detectives, months of inquiry, 2 families waiting for answers, and nothing. No arrest, no charge, no trial. The investigation didn't fail for lack of effort. It failed because of silence, deliberate, organized, impenetrable. In the criminal world, they call it omerta. You don't talk, you don't cooperate. You don't give up names, not to police, not to anyone. And in Lanarkshire in 2001, that silence held. It held for months, then years, then decades. The families of John Hall and David McIntosh placed flowers at that scrapyard on Merryton Road, in a place full of rusting cars and broken ground. That was all they could do, because the people who knew what happened weren't talking. They still aren't. The case remains open. Police Scotland, who absorbed Strathclyde Police, still hold the file, still appeal for information, still waiting for someone to break that silence. This wasn't the only case like it. The early 2000s in Scotland produced a string of gangland killings. That went unsolved. Drug debts settled in darkness. Bodies found in fields and car parks and quiet roads. Witnesses who saw nothing, knew nothing, said nothing. A pattern. Hall and McIntosh were part of it. And here's the bitterest part of all of this. Graham Dunsmore, the man who stashed the cocaine, the man whose arrest set everything in motion, he served his sentence, 6 years, and he walked out, free. The men who handed him those drugs are dead. The people who ordered the killings were never named in a courtroom, never faced a jury, never answered for it. John Hall left behind a wife, 2 teenage daughters, a grown son. David McIntosh left behind Diane, and a black Volkswagen Golf, burned to nothing on a patch of Lanarkshire waste ground. 24 years later, still no justice, just 2 friends heading to the dogs, betting slips, floodlights, the sound of racing greyhounds on a cold autumn night. That was it. That was the last ordinary moment either of them had. The greyhound track at Gretna was just the last place anyone saw them smile. And then 70 miles of darkness, and a scrapyard, and silence that has lasted 24 years. If you know anything about what happened to John Hall and David McIntosh, anything at all, a name, a conversation you overheard, something you've carried quietly for too long, Police Scotland's case is still open. You can contact them directly, anonymously if you need to. Someone out there knows what happened in that scrapyard. Maybe more than one person. And those families, John's daughters, David's partner Diane, they're still waiting. They've been waiting since 2001. That's a long time to carry something that isn't yours to carry. If this case stayed with you, and I think it will, the next video is already waiting. Another case, another story that deserves to be told properly. It's on your screen right now. Thank you for watching this one all the way through. It genuinely means something. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Until next time.